Hi guys, it's Leslie and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking MiddleGrade March. MiddleGrade March is just a month-long read-along, read-a-thon, however you want to look at it, just encouraging people to read as much middle grade as they are interested in. And I love middle grade. Usually the stories are full of a lot of heart and they're very just warm and cozy, I guess, and I love that. I feel like they can pack a punch in not so many words. I loved reading middle grade during March last year, and I'm excited to do it this year. My TBR is pretty huge for this, and because middle grade is for children, the books are usually pretty short, so I should be able to get through a bunch of these, but I will just go through what I'm thinking. Along with just reading as whatever or as much middle grade as you like, there are 5 challenges, sort of a 6th one if you count the group book, and I will go through those as I tell you which book I'm reading for it. We can get right into it, and the first book I'm going to read, actually listen to because I have this on audiobook, is Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This is a story of little woodland creatures. I really think that's all you kind of need to know. That's really all I know, so that's what I'm going with. And this goes for the challenge of a non-human character. So obviously these are moles and rats and a bunch of other creatures that are the main characters. So that works for that challenge, and this is a classic, so I'm excited to get to it. The next book I have is Sweep. The story of a girl and her monster. I don't know a ton about this, but this is the group book, so I will definitely be reading this one this month. I think it's maybe set a while ago. The girl's a chimney sweep and she has a monster. So I don't know much more than that. I don't need to know much more than that. I'm excited to read it along with a lot of other people who are reading this month. Another challenge is to pick a diverse read. Could be religion or race or gender or whatever, and I found this called In the Footsteps of Crazy Horse by Joseph Marshall III, and this is a story of a Native American kid who ends up going on a little adventure with his grandfather, and I think it's Lakota Indian tribe in this particular book, and I'm super excited to read this story. Another challenge is a book written in verse, and for this I am picking Maybe by Caroline Starr Rose. I don't know a ton about this except that it's written in verse, and it's about a girl who lives like on the prairie-ish in Kansas and has a really terrible winter and is trying to survive. This one sounds like I will like it. For the last specific challenge, which is to read a fantasy, I'm going to read one of 2 books. I didn't read Wondersmith when I had it checked out of the library earlier, and that one is certainly a fantasy, so I may get to that one if I can get it back from the library this month. And if not, there's a book that I came across called Granted by John David Anderson. I've never heard of it before, but it has to do with a fairy in training and kind of her adventures, and I think that sounds kind of cute. I haven't read a fairy story in a really long time, so I hope to get to that one if I can't get Wondersmith. The rest of the books that I have picked out are mainly because I found a bunch on audio, so I decided might as well. Most of them are really short, and a few are classics, and I love reading classics, and especially children's classics. So those are Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. I don't really even know what this is about, but I think it's a girl who goes to live with maybe some family members that aren't great, something like that, and her growing up. I also want to try A Little Princess and Little Lord Fauntleroy, which are both by Frances Hodgson Burnett. These are just A Little Princess, people have heard of. It was a great movie, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who did the 3rd Harry Potter movie and just did Roma, which were huge. That movie was huge at the Oscars, but I digress. They're both just major classics that I would love to read, and they're both fairly short. Along the line of classics, Misty of Chincoteague Chincoteague, I think is how you say it. This is a story about horses. I have heard about this book ever since I was a kid, never read it. I also want to get to the next Anne of Green Gables book in the series, which is Anne of Windy Poplars. I read 3 of the Anne books last year and I love them all. Really excited to read the next one, but I'm sort of savoring them because they're just so sweet. They're just the sweetest books I've read. So I'm excited about that. I also have a couple others by Sharon Creech. The one that I know the most by Sharon Creech is Walk Two Moons, and I read that last year. I love that book, probably one of my all-time favorite books. So I want to check out some of her other stories, one of which is Bloomability. This is like, I think a girl gets kidnapped and has to live in Switzerland with some people. That's about all I really know of that. And the other is Chasing Redbird, and I think this is a book about grief a little bit. Again, don't really know much about these plots. Don't really need to know a lot about the plots because I'm going to read them anyway. I also have Mary Poppins on audiobook. I've never read the book and I like the movie, so I feel like why not read the source material. A book that I've been meaning to get to is called The Westing Game by Ellen Hopkins, I think, something like that. This is sort of like a mystery book, and a friend of mine told me that was like one of her favorites when she was a kid, and I don't ever remember it. I think it maybe has won some awards, maybe Newbery or something like that, but I've never read it, and it does sound like a little different like genre than the rest of these middle grade stories that I've picked out. So that one I'm excited about. Other than that, I have a full plate where it comes to middle grade stories, and that may take up the majority of my reading this month, which I'm okay with. But I finally got Vita Nostra by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko. Obviously written in Russian and translated by Julia Maytov-Hersey. This is a adult fantasy-ish book, sci-fi maybe. Matthew Sciarappa just lauds this book's praises, so I really wanted to give it a try. It finally came in for my library, so I certainly am going to get to this very, very soon. I don't want to have to give it back to the library without actually having read it. I'm really excited to read this. What are you reading this month? Are you participating in Middle Grade March? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below, and I guess next time I'll see you later. Bye.